News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. I'm glad you're here with us today. And I'm not sure what's going on with my voice, but there you go. And now it's normal. I guess I just didn't click one more button on my device, and now we're here, and my voice sounds a little bit more normal than it was a second ago. So thanks for joining us. We're live at 96.7 FM on CKLU, 96.7 FM and CKLU.ca, on the radio, streaming online. Click on the Radio Player Canada app. You can download it also. Take us with you and listen to us anytime, anywhere on your favorite device. We are also streaming at youtube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, subscribe, follow, mainly comment, because we'll do our best to get your comments read for those listening, whether it's online or on the air, on the radio. And then we'll also, you're part of the conversation. This is your conversation on your station right here, the campus and community radio station, been around since 1984. Right here in Greater Sudbury. Started in a humble trailer on the Laurentian University site on Ramsey Lake Road. And now we broadcast from the corner of Elgin and Elm Street, right here in Greater Sudbury, the old Telegraph building, now part of the new MacEwan School of Architecture. And I'm just looking at the amount. We have 6 comments from 6 people, but it says there's only 5 people on Facebook. So I've always had my suspicions that the numbers aren't exactly right, and all kinds of things. But anyways, just a little something I've just noticed as I'm looking at the screen in front of me. But anyways, I appreciate you guys being on this morning. Those who are with us, we got a great show planned for you. We're going to jump right in with some weather. Sudbury Wolves will be in action tonight against the Barrie Colts, so we'll talk a little bit about that, and then also local headlines in today's deep dive, as promised, into as there is a big conference going on with the United Emirates, I believe, or Saudi Arabia, hosting the climate conference, and we have lots of talk about what's going on there, who's behind it, who is giving us the data. Why is it important that we take whatever data that's been given us, and why it's so important to act and not discuss or make sure we're doing the right thing before we act. Many people saying discussion is over. It's time to move forward, whatever that means, in what direction we don't know, and who's at the helm. We don't even ask, like who's driving this bus, kind of thing. But today maybe we'll talk about who's driving the bus. Like, who are these people? Who are they? You know, you always say, you know what they say, right? Now, who the heck are they? You know, or do they have a corporate headquarters in the middle of somewhere with a sign outside that says They Inc. or something? You know, who are these people? So today we might talk about they and who they are, them, and who's driving the bus? Who is at the head of the conversation and getting everybody to talk about certain things, and who's handing out the money for people to move these types of things forward that we're going into? So yeah, we'll talk about that after weather, sports, news headlines locally. We'll get into that. So stay with us. It's going to be a great show today, I promise. Be back right after this. And currently it's -5 degrees, but it feels like -6. Big change there. Usually it's like, it's -5, but it feels like -22. So we'll take that for whatever it's worth. It is today a mix of sun and cloud, mild wind. -1 will be your high. And then wind chill will be -10 this morning, -3 this afternoon. Tonight, cloudy. Wind chill will be -4 this evening, -9 overnight. The low will be -5. It's interesting. Okay, Saturday, which is tomorrow, mainly sunny. And the high will be -1 with the wind chill will feel like -9. And long range, as we look at that, I'll get rid of this logo, which I should have done a long time ago. Again, -1, mainly sunny for Saturday. 40% chance of flurries on Sunday with a high of -4. And then mix of sun and cloud with a high of -6, -5, -6, -5 for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So pretty much starting Sunday, we have -4, -5, -6, -5. So anywhere between -4 and -6 between Sunday and Wednesday. Thursday will be -2, cloudy. So relatively moderate for this time of year. Relatively moderate. Again, clouds as they were coming through northern Ontario the last day. That's what we're seeing there. We don't have an updated satellite view, but you can see a lot of that clearing is coming in from northwestern Ontario, and that's what we'll be able to expect in the tomorrow. So that's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. We'll be back with a little bit of a Wolves update that they're in action tonight at the Sudbury Arena, and then after that, local news headlines, your comments, and much, much more. And so we'll be back right after this. Sudbury Sports brought to you by SudburySports.ca, which lands on our Sudbury.news website. And they'll be in action, like I said, tonight at the Sudbury Arena, facing the Barrie Colts. Puck drop, as usual, set for 7:05. The matchup is proudly sponsored by Northern Hockey Academy. Again, you want to get out and see that strong line that we have with Dvorsky, Goyette, Musty. It's something you must see, and they do have a great supporting cast as well. I know I leave a lot of the other players out a lot, and I'm toting the 3 players, but anyways, they got a really great team, and I know Krawchuk's been doing very great as of late, and the goaltending, if it continues to be hot, they're gonna go far this year. They're gonna go far in the playoffs. I guarantee you. If we avoid injuries, suspensions, things like that, you'll see us go very far. So again, tonight, get out there, support the Wolves. Tickets are going fast. Last Friday's game against the London Knights was packed. I know we're going to see more and more of this. As the Wolves put up more W's and have a stronger team, more people are going to want to get out and see them. Make sure to get your tickets. If you can't make it for the game, though, you can catch the game right here on CKLU 96.7 FM, CKLU.ca, and more than likely Eastlink on TV. Then, after tonight's game, they're going to head to Mississauga for a Sunday matinee. With the Steelheads, the game time for division rivals matchup is 2 p.m., and again, you can catch that game right here on CKLU 96.7 FM. But get out tonight. Support the Wolves. It's a great time. Family friendly. Great fun. Doesn't cost much. And it's a great time. It's a good 4 hours of your time. And you'll enjoy it. I guarantee it. I can put my guarantee on that. So we'll be back with news, headlines, your comments, and more right after this. Okay, Let's see. A lot of people joining us this morning. We're grateful for you being on here. Um, let's see. Judy, first of the party on Facebook. Thanks for being with us. Good morning, Marianne LaBelle. Good morning from Barrie. Liked and shared, yes. Again, speaking of Barrie, they're in town tonight. So thanks, Marianne, for joining us. Monique, good morning, Sudbury. Hand clap. Maurice, heart emoji, good morning. And Belinda, usually with a nice positive statement for the day. Good morning. Waiting to be someone else is a waste of who you are. You are meant to be here at this time. Okay, that is very good and very true. Heart emoji to go with it. Thank you very much for that. Marianne also saying absolutely, it's extraordinary time to be alive. It sure is, no matter what's happening. And it's Friday as well. So Victoria, thank you for being with us. Good morning. Thanks for reminding us it is Friday. December the 1st, nonetheless. First day of December. Yeah, Christmas is coming fast upon us, a little more than 3 weeks away. And that sometimes can add some stress. Leon today says, Klaus Schwab and the WEF has stated that they will now bribe and corrupt. Oh, really? They just came out and said, it's not surprising to me. They do say weird things like that. They just came out and said they're just going to start bribing and be corrupt. Okay, with politicians with money, like they did with the news media to keep them on track for the Great Reset coming to you in the year 2030 or sooner. And again, for those listening who aren't aware of what is called the World Economic Forum, it's a great thing to go on their website, because a lot of people will call people who will know who this organization is and say things like you just said, that, oh, it's a conspiracy theory or something like that. And no, you just go on their website and they'll just come right out and say what they're doing. But again, it's really well worded. It's like a kind, gentle wording about how they are planning to basically take over the planet. Right. But again, if you read between the lines and you're able to think critically as you read it, it's very apparent what their plans are. And it's in accordance with the UN's Agenda 2030. They had Agenda 2021 as well. Agenda 2030 and targets made for 2050. So there's your goals, right? 2021, we've already passed that. We've seen a lot of changes through the pandemic, government policies and things like that the pandemic afforded the leaders of our world to be able to make. And Justin Trudeau himself said, now is our opportunity to not let this basically, never let a good crisis go to waste kind of thing. And it's an opportunity for a great reset. And where did he get that word from? Well, Klaus Schwab's book called COVID-19, The Great Reset. He had it written even before COVID-19 came out, if you can imagine that. How would he have known that? We ask, we question, we wonder. He might have a crystal ball. We don't know. We have no idea. But anyways, this is the organization that you just have to look into and know how they're influencing our elected officials that we elect to go in and do things on our behalf for what's best for us. But they are influencing them. We didn't elect them in any way, shape, or form. So look into it. It's good time spent if you really want to know the future of your world. And who's behind it? So Belinda also saying those who are driving the bus have never been a passenger. It's time for us passengers to be heard and drive the change. Yeah. Get our license and drive the bus ourselves. Danica, good morning. Happy Friday, heart emoji. Also, Liette, good morning. Hand clap, all these positive emojis. Thanks for joining us if it's your first time. We cover local news headlines right here in Greater Sudbury, Ontario. It's Northern Ontario, a city that's about a 4-hour or so drive north of Toronto, our most populated city in Canada. And so we're we're kind of isolated in some ways. We are a bit of a hub for our Northern Ontario neighbors, which consist of a little over 500,000 people in Northern Ontario, and Sudbury is in and around just under 200,000 people, and so we're the largest city in Northern Ontario, but very small compared to our Southern Ontario neighbors. And we basically have this conversation each and every day about local issues that we talk about here on the community radio station and streaming, but we also dive into more topics that from around the world that will also affect us living in the community that we do. And so a lot of times the topic might also resonate with yourself if you're not from this particular area of the world. And so the beginning of the show is usually taken talking about local issues and then onward to some more widespread ones. Okay, so Liette, COVID is a small window of opportunity to build back better and have the Great Reset. For sure, these terms, build back better, Great Reset, you think, oh, it's Joe Biden. No, it wasn't. It came from the WEF. Great Reset, oh, it was Justin Trudeau speaking to the UN. No, it wasn't. It was Klaus Schwab from the WEF. So these talking points, right? They come through. It's kind of like a thumbprint when you're going in after a crime and you're taking fingerprints. These talking points come from somewhere. These politicians here, these ones that we elect, they didn't make them up. It comes from above, right? It comes from somebody else. And they're taking their orders from them. Like Klaus Schwab said, he's infiltrated, and used those words. He's infiltrated. That's like a military term. He's infiltrated half of Trudeau's cabinet. You don't believe me? Go and research it yourself. Punch in infiltrated Trudeau's cabinet, Klaus Schwab states, and you get it. It's that simple. We're not making these things up. Somebody says they've infiltrated our elected officials' cabinet. Wow. And nobody's going, oh, we should investigate this, or that's kind of corrupt, or that's really not right. That's interesting. But we have credible media that's out there, right? You can only listen to credible media. I heard that on the CBC this morning because Google apparently made a deal with the federal government. They're going to pay somebody in the federal government or some entity, they don't even know yet, $100 million a year to go towards Canadian media. Now they're going to decide who is actually Canadian media. And the person on CBC made it very clear that it's probably going to go to credible media like the CBC, who's already getting over $1 billion in our tax money. They're going, the host was talking to this person going, I think we're going to benefit from this too. It's like, holy crap, you don't benefit enough already with over $1 billion of taxpayers' money. And then they said, well, it's only going to go to credible news sources. We got to get rid of this, people just talking about the news and getting it wrong. No more talking about Klaus Schwab and, infiltrating cabinets or anything like that. We got to have real news, news that, we credible journalists talk about. Like many people say that the carbon tax has nothing to do with costs of food in far remote northern communities. Questions like that from credible news people from the CBC. And then the person asks back and say, well, who's saying this? And they say, well, I don't know. Any particular person? No. Credible journalists like that. That's what we need to give this money to. Okay, so anyways, I digress. And Belinda is saying they tell us their plans all the time, and it's true. That's part of what they have to do. They have to tell you. It's a kind of a priestcraft thing, if you want to use a religious aspect of it. They're doing kind of like black magic on people. And it's a Luciferian type of thing. If you drill it down, many of these people buy into like more satanic ideologies. They probably worship, I would think, at the same time, because it's many satanic things. So they actually, part of the black magic they do, now this is sounding conspiratorial, but you could do your own research on it, is they have to tell you what they're going to do. And they do it in various forms. So that way, when they're held accountable, which they will be one day by somebody who's higher than them, we told them what we were going to do. So what? So they have to tell you. It's interesting. So if you look out there, they can't, they do things in secret all the time, but they have to tell you when they're going to do something. And so it's an interesting thing. But anyways, again, not for this show today. Marianne, yes, but weren't counting on those lovely truckers that inspired many Canadians and the world. Definitely, yes. The world were inspired by our truckers here. Many people went out and did what we did here in Canada. 27. Okay. You must have a scripture or something here, because people who dig a pit shall fall therein. And whoever rolls a stone, it will return upon him. Yeah, that is true. You go and dig a pit for someone else, you're the one who's going to fall in it. You try and roll someone over, try run someone over with a stone, you'll be the one who's run over by it eventually, right? So all people and all things will be held to account at some particular point in life and in the world, which is a good thing. Good morning, everyone, from Denise. Thanks for being with us. And so Trudeau is using global warming as an excuse to spend taxpayers' money to enriching the globalist friends, lower standards of the living for Canadians. Do you think your standard of living is being lowered right now? What, you don't find that it's being raised? That's being sarcastic, by the way. So sure came a long way from 2 weeks to flatten the curve. When I heard that, I knew that wasn't, because I was expecting something coming, right? When the pandemic hit, I knew something was coming. I just never saw that one. I never saw it. I do a lot of research with these kind of people and what they do in our world. And that even surprised me. I said, something's going to happen soon. Something's ready to happen. And then I never saw that, the way that it unfolded, be the thing. But anyways, they all take a pledge to the dark side, for sure. Yeah, that's kind of like what I was saying. Exactly. According to the lie, climate change, the planet wouldn't exist. According to them, their mistakes are showing with pushing it, and people are not buying it. For sure. We'll have a video on that in a few moments. So mainstream media news, it's not a conspiracy, including King Charles, the G7 leaders. Not a conspiracy. Yeah, King Charles was speaking at this climate conference just recently, right? They had some of his comments on my drive this morning, CBC. Let's get into a couple news headlines here locally. And thanks for joining us, Dario. It's always a deep dive at the beginning. Everyone's comments, try and read them. And there's definitely no conversation that we leave off the table. We'll talk about anything and everything here. Local news, though, this is kind of sad in some ways, was the Extendicare was temporarily shelved. So they're going to build another one in Minnow Lake. But it's temporarily shelved. Spokespeople from, on the Extendicare side said they're building the one in the south end, and that's going well, and it'll be completed very shortly. But the one in Minnow Lake, it was going to house 320 residents, and is going to cost them about, get this, $100 million, right? Does that number sound familiar? $100 million. Now, they're not able to build it, though, because it's costing too much, because there's costs that are basically significant that don't normally go along with building a place anywhere else other than in Northern Ontario. So you have our winters. So a lot of the people have to build in the winter. And so you have heating costs. You have to make sure workers are warm. So that's a cost that Southern Ontario or other places other than Northern Ontario, speaking in Ontario anyways. And the people that fund this, the province and long-term health care that fund these projects, don't take into account Northern Ontario specific building concerns. Another one is the rock here in Sudbury. So they have to blast. So go try and blast something and see how much it costs. You got the equipment, specialized workforce. And you go down. Never forget when I was down in Niagara Falls and I was looking at some construction sites and the backhoes were just going into the dirt like it was a hot knife in butter, just digging up this very rich black soil that was just so easy to just take out. So I thought, wow, that's amazing how Sudbury, how many more costs we have for development up here compared to down there. And it's a more temperate climate there as well. So on top of that, so easier to build, not as cold in Southern Ontario. Up here, they said we don't have the workforce. We don't have companies that would be able to take on a project of this size. So we have to bring in, like the one that they did in the South End, had to take a company from Manitoba. Like they had to come far. So there's extra cost there too. So they bring in people from another province. There's extra cost. They have to be lodged and things like that. So it adds to the cost. And they're saying we don't even have the skilled labor here, like in Ontario. So finding workers alone is going to be hard to do. So now this project's on the shelf, and they're going to close down Falcon Bridge, and they're going to move those people to the South End. And the ones that are at York were slated that the York Extendicare was going to be replaced by the Minimal Lake one. And I don't know if you've ever been to York Extendicare. They do a good job. The people in there, they try and do as good a job as they can, but the facilities are very under par for what you would want, how you would want your loved one to be treated and a place where you'd want your loved one to be. It's very old and wow. They do their best, but it's just an old building, and it's hard to actually have a high level of care there. We talked about the library that was just greenlit from City Council to be built in Tom Davies Square. And the price tag from the city will be $37 million. So originally it cost $100 million. And they said, well, wait a minute, that's way too much. So prices have ballooned. And I don't even think they would have worried about that so much, but there was a backlash because of if you're still on, from the Kingsway Entertainment District kind of getting shelved, if we're speaking of projects getting shelved. So people were like, okay, because the cost ballooned because of the pandemic and because of inflation and all that, we can't go ahead and build the event center there because of cost. But they were still going to go ahead with the ballooning cost of the library/art gallery downtown, even though it ballooned as well. So people are going, wait a minute here, something's wrong. So they went, okay, and went back to the table. And now they said, well, maybe we'll build it in a place that's more fiscally responsible, right? So we're going to build it in Tom Davies Square. Now, that wasn't the only place that was talked about building the new library art gallery. And the cost isn't all that cheap compared to the original cost. Even though you don't have to build the edifice itself, it's still going to cost about $65 million, which is only $35 million less. You would think it would be much less if you're already using an existing building. And so the city's contribution to that would be $37 million. But we read yesterday in the article that the city will kick in the other amount if we can't find any other funders or sponsors of the project. So that could be right on taxpayers' dime, a $65 million price tag for a new library, which is arguable in and of itself. People, what's wrong with the current libraries we have? You know what I mean? Like, are they dangerous? Are they a safety concern? Are the buildings too old? What's the need for a new centralized library? Because once we get a centralized library, all the libraries in the outlining areas obviously will be closed. We know that already. Like, that's what centralization is. And people from the outlining regions will be underserved. Does that sound familiar? they'll have to travel into Sudbury with limited parking downtown for this library. But apparently it's going to be all inclusive somehow. It's going to be so welcoming to everybody. And it says it's going to bring people from all areas. People are going to come and spend their vacations here to go to the library. Now I'm being a little bit sarcastic, but they were saying it's going to bring people in from around other areas to come to Sudbury, which is questionable too, right? And I made the argument yesterday that Costco probably brings more people here than the library, and does for sure. I will stand behind that. Costco brings more people here than the new library would. But anyways, apparently though, not all the counselors are on board with this. Don, who's has become a great contact, who emails me a lot of articles and things like that, which I do appreciate from all of you as well, sending me things that you like to see on the show. I really appreciate that. And as you know, a lot of times I'll use them. It depends, right? When you send them to me, if it's something that's going to be used, in the next couple days or not, sometimes it gets buried afterwards and then new things are coming in. So I apologize in some way if I'm not using some of the material, but whatever you send me, keep doing it because I really appreciate it. It helps. So Don, who sends me material on a regular basis, says he wrote a letter to Bill Leduc, who is a Sudbury councillor who was not on board. He voted against the library going into Tom Davies Square. And he said a much better location would have been the Elm Place, the old city center mall. There's ample room in there. There's parking there. So, that would suffice for parking because that's definitely something that we need downtown is parking, especially if you're going to have something that's going to draw that many people as they're expecting, as they're saying, which I again question. So, and there was a couple other counselors too that weren't on board, and basically I'm going to reach out to him because of Don's interaction with him. He said I should reach out, and I think I will, and get his take on it. And it's an opposite take from other counselors that we're hearing that are on board with it and think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread, right? So it's always good to get a different perspective. And that's all it's about. It's about really talking it out. And good morning, Vin, by the way. And talking it out and having a conversation. The more information you can get on something, the more facts you can get, the better the decision that can be made on whatever it is. Just is what it is. I'm taking that in my master's right now in business, and it's about doing a competitive analysis and doing different scenarios. You try and think of as many scenarios that could possibly happen and plan for a future that's going to be sustainable for the ideas that you're going to implement. And as I'm looking at this, and then I'm looking at what the city's doing, I'm thinking they could take a page out of this master's program that I'm taking right now. And I could even send them the modules because it's probably very good to learn this if we're making decisions that are costing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. It would probably be good to follow some of these formulas and things in our own community. Just good, sound business practices. The city is a business, by the way. Canada's a corporation. The province is a corporation. The city is a corporation, which is a business. It has to be. Money is coming in and out. Should be run more like a business to be as fiscally responsible as possible. So, got a video here talking about climate and all of these. It says that Sudbury's economy is going to do very well going forward. There's just a new report put out, I think, by the city that Sudbury's going to do very well because of the new vehicle, electric vehicles that we're all going to be driving very shortly, right? But how good was this also well thought out? Did they do their planning for the future the way they should? And who are they anyways that are making these plans? But a bit of a look into Redacted, looking into these electric vehicles. Now, this is the United States, but you can probably take a page out of it, and things also relate to Canada as well. So here you go. So here's electric vehicles. How are they doing in the States? will we be facing some of the same problems? Are we getting a little ahead of ourselves? Did we really think this thing out? Anyways, has to do with our Climate Friday theme. So we'll be back right after this.
Well, Americans don't want these crappy electric vehicles, no matter how much they are offered in tax incentives. A group of about 4,000 car dealerships are begging President Biden to tap the brakes on electric vehicle mandates because EVs are just sitting there on lots. Here is Tom Maioli from Celebrity Motor Cars, who was one of the dealers who signed this letter, and he explains it to CNBC.
And this is basically the voice of the consumer. This is not the dealer. This is the voice of the consumer. And what's happening is the manufacturer is being forced to produce these EVs. They're shipping them to the dealerships and they're backing up on the lots. You know, our average day supply pre-COVID was 60 to 90 days supply of inventory. During COVID, it was less than 30 because of the supply chain issues. We're now backed up to 12 months with EVs. Consumers don't want them. They're not buying them. We have up to $15,000 in rebates from the manufacturer and $7,500 tax credits. We're talking $22,500.
Now, the host goes on to say that despite these deep discounts, they're just sitting there. He talks about a Ford F-150 electric truck with only 25 miles on it, so brand new, marked down to $7,000. Brand new Ford truck. That's a $20,000 discount. Listen how the dealer responds to that super cheap car that no one wants. And then listen how he makes the distinction between these EVs that the government's pushing out and, of course, Tesla, which is a different story.
Still can't sell it. Consumer doesn't want it. The consumer's in fear over the infrastructure. The infrastructure is not there. The White House and the Biden administration and got way out over its skis with this mandate, and the consumer has to buy into it, and they're not. And the problem that exists now is, they force the manufacturers to spend all this money to build these plants and produce these vehicles, but the consumers aren't buying into it. They're afraid of range. They're afraid of where they're going to charge. And we're not talking about, listen, Tesla is a vanity purchase. People have to have a Tesla. They have a second vehicle. Most people can't afford the first vehicle, never mind the second vehicle. And these people are coming out to the dealerships and they're buying these vehicles and they're afraid. These are average working American people. They're putting their families in the car. Moms are driving their kids to school. Dads have to get to work. And, if they have to charge on the road and it takes 30 minutes to charge.
Okay, so this host cuts him off, but he talks about how these are not the Tesla driving crowd of the Silicon Valley. These are working people who can't be bothered to stop for a charge, or they don't want to pay the extra electricity bill because they're already hit enough with rising electricity costs, or they just don't have the infrastructure in their town that works into their daily life where they drop the kids off somewhere and they go to work. They're not like my father, who is constantly running to the Home Depot to charge his Tesla at the supercharger, and then his wife has to pick him up, and then she has to drop him back off when the car is full. It's ridiculous inefficiency, but that's how my father.
I think that sums it up. Ridiculous inefficiency. When these things are not properly thought out, sure, I guess you could. Yeah, the argument is being made. The planet is dying. It's burning up. It's never been as hot. And we're going to die in 40 years, everyone's going to be dead, something like that. And so you need to be alarmed, and you need to build electric cars, and you need to change, and you need all these things without any infrastructure really being made to support it. Again, it's just not well thought out. Okay. So if you take, basically a critical analysis of what things are going on, you think you need the markets to kind of catch up to things. You can't force a circle into a square peg, a circle peg into a square hole. So you just can't do that. But that's what our government kind of does. It does that. It goes out and look in Canada, it doesn't allow the market to do anything. It's trying to take over the market. So it says, no, we need these batteries. We need battery operated cars because of all these things. And good morning, Brian, by the way. Thanks for being with us. So we need these battery operated cars. We need battery everything. We need solar, we need wind, which is all inefficient, less effective, costs too much, and is actually worse on the environment when you really do the analysis on it, on how to create these things and And then what do you do when they rust out and you have to change out parts and all of that, right? So this particular person is driving their spouse to or home. He drives himself to Home Depot to charge up. Then his wife has to go pick him up and drive him back home using a gas powered vehicle. So a few trips back and forth to Home Depot so he can charge the vehicle again, right? But if you were to tell that to our government, they'd say, well, that's just the price we pay to save the planet. What, we have to pollute more to save the planet? No, they don't talk like that, but it's just weird. They don't make sense. And so they're taking all your money, billions, $15 billion of your money, because no one else is going to invest in a battery plant. And then part of that is bringing in 1,600 workers from South Korea. 1,600? Sure, I could see maybe 100 you'd need specialized, people with specialization to kind of train maybe people here who have the jobs. But of that $15 billion you're paying for that plant in Windsor to build the plant, because there's no private investment in this thing because they don't make money. It's just not a natural thing. They're not infusing things into the natural economy to have a gradual change to change things. They're just going full bore, not really thinking things out. And they're like a bull in the china shop. They're just destroying infrastructure and destroying our economy. And what's up with this $1,600 South Korean workers coming in? I have friends from South Korea. I love people in South Korea. It's a wonderful culture, wonderful people, great friends that I have from there. But why is Canada paying the salaries of 1,600 South Korean workers to come and work in these battery plants? And why is it 15 billion of our dollars going? Like, we used to have companies that paid for themselves. Like they said, oh, there's a need out there. There's a problem. We're going to solve it. And we're going to invest because we know we're going to reap the rewards. We're going to get a return on our investment. And hey, we don't have enough money. Let's get enough of our friends together and say, hey, you know what? We got this idea. There's a problem. We're going to solve it, and it's going to make money. But we're going to need a little bit of your money to put in because we don't have enough of our own money. And hey, maybe there's a group of us that will all cash in on when this problem gets solved and people, buy whatever it is that we have or use whatever service that we create because we're solving a problem. That's what the market does. It solves problems. But now there's a problem that's being created that's questionable. And now there's solutions that the market isn't even seeing that there's a use for. And all your money is going towards it. It's just not really thought out. So this is what my question is of the day. What has been your life, in a nutshell, in terms of where you've lived in your whole life here? If it's in Canada, let's say around Greater Sudbury, what's the quality of life you've enjoyed? Your quality of life, the economy, working, the opportunity to go to school, your quality of life. Has it been on a scale of 1 to 10, in the top almost 10? And compare it to other areas in the world. Looking back, not looking what it is now or what it looks like it's going, where it's going. How do you think we got here? We didn't get here because of government. That's not how we got here today. That's not what we've been enjoying all these years. It's not because of things they've done. It's because of what the market has done. It's because of the way the free market has operated here in Canada, in the United States, in the Western world. And that's increased our standard of living. And then because of what we've done, it's also influenced the rest of the world and brought them out of poverty. Not everyone's out of poverty, but it started bringing other countries out of poverty because of the innovations that were created, because we were problem solving. Companies were solving problems, and then the same problems we were solving here could also be used in other countries. And so an invention that was innovated here and research and development was now going to benefit other countries. And nothing to do with government. Government didn't do that. But now government's doing it. Government's taking that over and they're saying, no, we can do this. We're doing this better and we know how to do it and we're going to do it. And don't know how that's going to end. But who's all behind all this stuff? Like, why? Like, why not just leave us be and leave us problem solve? Problem solve people who put the money and the time in, who solve these problems, benefit because they're the ones who did it, right? They then hire people to work. And then if you're happy enough just working for someone else who's very innovative and very creative and is able to solve a lot of problems and you're happy with that, there's a lot of people to go around and work for these people. You know, there's no disdain. There's no, why do you get so much money back when you sacrificed so much and whatever, and you put in all your time and you had a great idea, you know, you should benefit from that. If you have, and you know, it doesn't stop me from having a great idea and doing the same thing. And it's not like the world's a big pie that there's not enough to go around. The world's not a pie that there's just a finite amount of ideas and innovation and creativity and money. Anyone can do it. But, you know, listening to the government and the way they do things, they'll just invest in one business and not another, putting one business out of business and propping up another one, you know. And then we own Air Canada and we own this as a government. It's getting more and more government owned things in Canada. And the quality then goes down because it's not part of the free market and yada, 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 right? But who's all behind these things? Oh, so I had a listener, a viewer, send me, and good morning, Claire. Thanks for being with us. A video from a particular producer of films. If you've seen the film Trading Places, and this is going back. This particular person passed away shortly after 9/11, but we're asking who are these people that are influencing our leaders and whatever, right? So he had a brush with someone trying to take him into this elite group. So it's really neat to hear it from the horse's mouth. Like, who are these people anyways? Well, here you go. This is a little foray into who they are from Aaron Russo, who created a movie called Trading Places. You might have heard of it. And another one called Freedom to Fascism, when he started catching on to things.
The ultimate goal that these people have in mind is the goal to create a one world government run by the banking industry, run by the bankers, and they're doing it in sections. The European currency, the euro, and the European Constitution is one part of it. Now they're trying to do it in America with the North American Union, right? And they want to create a new currency called the Amero, right? And the whole agenda is to create a one world government where everybody has an RFID chip implanted in them. All money is to be in those chips, right? There'll be no more cash. And this is giving me straight from Rockefeller himself. This is what they want to accomplish. And all money will be in your chips. And so instead of having cash, anytime you have money in your chip, they can take out whatever they want to take out whenever they want to. If they say you owe us this much money in taxes, they just deduct it out of your chip digitally.
Total control.
Total control. And if you're like me or you, and you're protesting what they're doing, they can just turn off your chip. And you have nothing. You can't buy food. You can't do anything. It's total control of the people.
And that chip's connected to a database that has your purchasing records, what you do, what
everything,
you sell.
Everything is in there, you know? And so they want a one world government controlled by them, everybody being chipped, all your money in those chips, and they control the chips, and they control people, and you become a slave. You become a serf to these people. That's their goal. That's their intentions.
Eric, can you be specific about when you met Rockefeller, how it happened in these discussions?
I met Rockefeller through a female attorney I knew who called me up one day and said, one of the Rockefellers would like to meet you. I had made a video called Mad as Hell, and he'd seen the video and wanted to meet me and knew I was running for governor of Nevada. So sure, I'd love to meet him. And I met him, and I liked him, and he was a very, very smart man. And we used to talk and share ideas and thoughts. And he's the one who told me 11 months before 9/11 ever happened that there was going to be an event. Never told him what the event was going to be, but there was going to be an event. And out of that event, we were going to invade Afghanistan to run pipelines from the Caspian Sea. We were going to invade Iraq. to take over the oil fields, establish a base in the Middle East, and make it all part of the New World Order. And we go after Chavez in Venezuela. And sure enough, later 9/11 happened. And I remember he was telling me how how you're going to see soldiers looking in caves for people in Afghanistan and Pakistan and all these places. And there's going to be this war on terror, which is no real enemy. And the whole thing is a giant hoax, but it's a way for the government to take over the American people.
He told you it was going to be a hoax.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's no question. He says, there's going to be war on terror. And he's just laughing. There's no... Who are we fighting? I mean, why do you think 9/11 happened and then nothing's happened since then? Do you think that our security is so great here that these people who pulled off 9/11, who were able to, can't knock down another plane? Come on, it's ridiculous. 9/11 was done by people in our own government and our own banking system to perpetuate the fear of the American people into subordinating themselves to anything the government wants them to do. That's what it's about, and to create this war, this endless war on terror. And that's why and that was the first lie. And the next lie was going into Iraq, to get Saddam Hussein out with his weapons of mass destruction. That was the next lie.
Now, specifically, this was a little over 6 years ago.
This was
11 months before 9/11.
Yeah.
And Nick Rockefeller, who's a lawyer, he's become your friend over the previous years, and he's saying to you that there's going to be this big event, and then out of that we're going to have a war on terror, and it's just going to go on and on.
Right. An endless war on terror without any real enemy. That you can never define a winner.
And did he say that it's going to be perfect because you can't define an enemy? It just goes on and
Yeah,
on?
because you can't define a winner. There's no one to beat, so it goes on and on forever. And they can do whatever they want. They scare the hell out of the American public. Look, this whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. It's very difficult to say it out loud because people are intimidated against saying it. Because if you say it, they want to make you into a nutcase. But the truth has to come out. That's why I'm doing this interview. The fact of the matter happens to be that the whole war on terror is a fraud. It's a farce. Yeah, there's a war going on in Iraq because we invaded Iraq. And people over there fighting, But the war on terror, that's a joke, And until we discover what really happened on 9/11 and who was responsible for 9/11, because that's where the war on terror emanates from. That's where it comes from. It was 9/11 that allowed this war on terror to begin. And until we get to the bottom root of 9/11, the truth of 9/11, we'll never know about the war on terror.
Aaron, you said that he was, and I think it's important, and I know this about the Rockefellers from Dr. Dennis Cuddy and many others who literally, you'll be 20 years old in a lunch line at college, and there's David Rockefeller, and they're experts at recruiting and getting what they call players, and that clearly he was, I want to make it specific and just get you to reiterate what you said last night about you got 30% of the vote, you were having an effect. You made mad as hell. They knew that you'd started the Constitution Party. Yeah. They knew that you were somebody who was taking action and getting things done. You'd already made some big films, had a lot of other successes.
Right.
So they were trying to recruit you. And didn't it come down to the point of, hey, we are here to recruit you, and don't worry, your chip's going to say, don't mess with us. This guy's don't touch.
Yeah, yes, that did happen. I was definitely being recruited. But it's more subtle than that.
Well, in your words, just go through the process and then what he said.
Well, what it is remember we were.
Yeah, he goes on to say basically that it's a nice, warm, fuzzy recruiting process where you're invited over for dinner and then you're befriended and blah blah blah, and then eventually Rockefeller says, "So, are you on board with this?" And he goes, "I can't. I love people." He goes, "Why do you care about people? You shouldn't care about them. It's they're just serfs. Why do you care about them? You should only care about you and your family." And that's what I'm here to protect you if you come on board with us, and then you'll be one of us. Why would you, want to be chipped like everyone else and have all these rules like we're making for everyone other than for our elite class, which I'm trying to bring you into, right? So it's interesting. And just to be open and transparent with the way things work in the world. Who are they? So obviously Rockefeller, it's no surprise that, they've come into this way back in the beginning of the oil discovery of oil and what oil has become. And they basically were perpetuated into this elite class along with another family in England, which we will not get into today. But anyways, so who are they? Who are these people? Like the WEF, why are they telling our politicians what to do? They're not elected, but yet their talking points come through. And so here's a little foyer. This was back just after 9/11, by the way. So this was over 20 years ago, what he was talking about. And we hear it now with CBDCs coming out. We want a cashless society. How is that going to be rolled out? What does it mean? So he was saying back then they were already talking about doing this and what were the reasons for it, right? So we really appreciate the time to be able to go through some of these things, a little bit of a deep dive at the end of a Friday. Looking forward to the weekend. I hope everyone, stay positive. Stay positive. There's much to be positive about. We can shine light where light needs to be shone, but we can also make sure that we are the light that shines for other people, taking a page out of Belinda's positive statements there. So thank you very much for listening, everyone. We'll be back same time, same place, God willing, Monday. Have a great weekend. Stay tuned now for Earshot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Ciao, everyone.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.